I'm gonna tell you what Baker Mayfield said about Cleveland Browns head coach Hue Jackson saying he won't start, and all that's coming up after the bumper.
What do you mean you don't subscribe to my son's YouTube channel?
Mama, no!
Just snap the damn ball, RJ.
What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. Before we get into the reasons why Baker is not being called the starter right now, I want to give a few recruiting notes. The first one is top 2020 dual threat quarterback Bryce Young was in town this weekend. The 6', 176-pound, 4-star recruit took his second trip to Norman and is the only quarterback on the board for Lincoln Riley. And that is telling, specifically because when recruiting quarterbacks, you really have to be serious and true about the one guy you really want until that one guy decides to bail on you, i.e. Cameron Rising. But until such a thing happens, that's got to be your guy. And I believe Bryce Young is the guy until we start hearing about Lincoln Riley looking at other quarterbacks, and we haven't heard anything of the sort. It also seems that Oklahoma City Millwood running back Marcus Major is narrowing his list of suitors, and Oklahoma remains on the list, but it seems OU has some work to do because there's this idea of a package deal that Majors seems to want with one of his teammates, but the sooner that goes away, the more likely it is that Marcus Majors ends up at OU. Finally, 2019 offensive tackle Andrew Coker received his offer from Oklahoma. Coker is a 6'7", 335-pound grown man, and we all know what Bill Bedenbaugh is capable of doing when he has guys who are big and long and fierce. Between Bill Bedenbaugh and Lincoln Riley, we have two great evaluators of talent and guys we know can develop our young guys into ball players. Alright, so now let's talk about Baker Mayfield at Cleveland. We gotta talk about what Hue Jackson said in relation to Baker Mayfield not being the starter. So what had happened was, a two-time walk-on in Baker Mayfield, walked on at Texas Tech, walked on at OU, won the starting job at both programs, then won the Heisman Trophy, then became the #1 overall pick for the Cleveland Browns, is going to sit behind Tyrod Taylor for the foreseeable future. Now, on its face, this does not make a lot of sense because Baker Mayfield is #1 overall pick, and because everywhere he goes, all he does is win. However, Tyrod Taylor is more than a serviceable quarterback, and when Cleveland traded for him, I didn't know that they were going to draft Baker Mayfield, but it seemed to create a sort of logjam because you got a guy who has the ability to compete in the NFL, and you have another guy who is the future of the NFL. Now, yes, I want to see Baker start right away, but #1, I'm not the head coach of the Cleveland Browns, and more importantly, I'm not the general manager or the owner of the Cleveland Browns. So if they have told Hue Jackson, take it slow with Baker Mayfield and we're going to give you time, that's what I would do if I were Hue Jackson. I would put Tyrod Taylor out there, let him throw 7 interceptions, and then go put Baker Mayfield in the game. But what does that mean for Baker Mayfield himself? Well, I'll tell you what he told Cleveland.com, which is, I'm always competitive. It wouldn't matter what Jackson was saying in regard to the competition, I'm still going to compete and try to win that job. So I'm going to listen to him, but I've got to go and compete, and first and foremost, I've got to learn my job. And in that regard, Baker said all the right things in relation to backing up Tyrod Taylor, which is, I can't wait to learn from this guy. He has a lot of experience in this league. I haven't competed in this league yet. It's gonna be great to learn at his knee. But you know Baker's fiery. You know Baker doesn't want to sit, and you sure know he doesn't want to sit for very long. But he still has to get those basics, like operating from under center, which is something he didn't do a lot of at Texas Tech or at OU. And he spoke about having those issues and those problems and those basics to work out here and now. So while he's learning to take those snaps from under center, it's also important to note that his charisma seems to be infecting the team in a good way. And his head coach said as much. He has a lot of characteristics that we love. That's why he's here. But let's make sure we pump our brakes a little bit because he's got a ways to go and a lot to learn. The guy you're comparing him to, Tyrod Taylor, has played a lot of games and won games in the National Football League. So it's not going to happen as soon as we would like it to happen. But one thing we know for sure with Baker is that he's going to be the starter right on time. All right, deuces.